Hey everyone, Tech Dad here, and in today's video, I'm going to walk you through how to make quality YouTube videos using just your iPhone and your iPad. I started this YouTube channel a little over a year ago. I posted my first video in September of 2024, and at the time of this recording, it is October of 2025, and I got a little over 23,000 subs, and I've got a great community of folks that watch and comment on the channel. I get lots of great feedback and questions from viewers, which I really appreciate. And one question that I get a lot is, hey Tech Dad, how do you make your videos? What exactly does your setup look like? So in this video, I'm going to show you. I'm going to walk you through how I got started in making content and how I've only used an iPhone and iPad the whole time. Nothing fancy schmancy. And I'm making this a beginner's guide, so if you're just getting started, this is the perfect video for you. And there are some reasons why using an iPhone and iPad in particular are great for beginners. It's awesome for a one-person studio, and we'll get into details on why that is. But Apple does a great job as long as you're playing in their ecosystem of helping you out and film by yourself to where you really don't need any help. And we'll talk about why the iPad is actually an advantage in editing your videos over a Mac. So the iPhone and iPad play really well together when you use Final Cut Camera and Final Cut Pro for iPad. So we'll cover all that. And so in this video, I want to talk about three main points. I want to start off by talking about the equipment and devices that I would recommend you get started with. I want to talk about using that Final Cut Camera app for iPhone, which is way better than just using the native camera app, and it's free. And then I want to talk about how you get your video over to your iPad and start editing. All right, let's get into it. Okay, so first, let's answer the question, what kind of iPhone should you use? Honestly, you could probably use about any iPhone that you have. Going all the way back to the iPhone 12 would probably be fine. But the newer and more powerful iPhone that you have, the better. And so today I use the iPhone 17 Pro Max, and I started with the iPhone 16 Pro Max. And so those Pro phones have the best lenses, the best cameras, the best camera options. You're going to get the best zoom. You get the option to record in ProRes if you want. So if you do have the budget for an iPhone Pro, go with that. I'd also recommend you get a larger storage capacity than just the base. I actually chose 512 for my 17 Pro Max because you're going to be storing a lot of video on that phone and you don't want to run out of storage when you're filming. Now, concerning iPads, I have the M5 iPad Pro, but you don't need anything like that to get started. Any M chip iPad will do. So if you got an M3 iPad Air, for example, that's going to be great for editing video on. I wouldn't go down to the base A16 iPad. I've tried editing video on that level of iPad. It does not work well, at least not with Final Cut Pro. It's very laggy. The export times are awful. So pick up an M chip iPad. Now, concerning microphones, I've been using this Yeti Nano microphone since I started, and this microphone is good for podcasting and game streaming. It has really good audio, and it captures audio that's very near it. And one big YouTube point is you can have mediocre video and people will put up with that, but your viewers will not tolerate bad audio. It sounds terrible. So you need to invest in a good microphone. You can try this one. Some setbacks to it are is that it is wired, so you do have to plug it in. I used to plug it into my iPhone, but I was starting to damage the port of the phone. So now I've got a little hack where I actually plug it into my iPad through my Apple Studio display. And I'll talk about that more in a minute. A lot of folks use wireless mics and that works fine. You can just clip them on right here. Works great. All right, so after you get your phone, your iPad, and your microphone, the next thing you're going to need is a tripod. Now, this is the tripod that I used when I first got started, and this guy was like 20 bucks on Amazon. And I've realized that cheap tripods can get you started, but it's probably worth the money to get a nicer one. And if you go to Best Buy, there's a whole vlogging section there, and they have decent level tripods for beginners. Tripods that give you more angles, tripods that have levels on them so you know your camera is straight when you're filming. Those are all very important things. I would go to Best Buy and check those out. And finally, lighting. So I have spent basically nothing on lighting. Now, in the beginning, I did get one of these ring lights, and this is really common for new YouTubers to get. It just puts light on your face, gets rid of shadow. Sometimes it has one of these little doodads to put your phone in. I thought this was terrible, and I actually thought it gave too much light. And we'll talk about lighting presets in a minute, but I actually like to use natural light. I always have, so I got some big windows back here, and before in other places, I used natural light. And there are professional YouTubers that also will film in natural light. That's not particularly unusual, although some folks love to film film in a super dark room and just have one of those ring lights on their face, and that's it. But the cool thing about iPhone is you don't need super awesome lighting. It will kind of fix that for you. I do have a fill light from my kitchen, so I just have a kitchen light over here, and it provides enough fill light to even things out. Which leads me to the next point of filming and using that Final Cut camera app for iPhone. All right, so this app is developed by Apple, and it's designed to help you take professional quality video. And it's absolutely free. And the presets are better in Final Cut Camera than they are in that native camera app. So that native camera app is designed to just pull in as much light as possible, and so a lot of times you'll look overexposed. So download that Final Cut camera app for your iPhone, and that will get you started. Now let's talk about settings in Final Cut Camera. So the first setting I want to talk about is HDR versus SDR. So I film in HDR, and I do get some complaints about this. It's actually not the common way to film. Even Hollywood films in SDR. And so that is an option in Final Cut Camera. So if you don't want a whole bunch of light or you don't want to look overexposed, use SDR. I think HDR looks good for when I'm filming the iPad, but depending on the device, you can look overexposed. So try HDR if you want, but SDR is the most common. Now let's talk about ProRes versus that H.265. So people think, well, I got to film in ProRes. You actually don't. ProRes files are absolutely enormous, and the quality of the film isn't that much better. The benefit to using ProRes is when you edit. So editing will be a lot smoother, but if you're not a professional editor, you're probably not going to notice. So I would not recommend filming in ProRes. Start with that H.265. That gives beautiful video, and the file sizes are much smaller, and it still edits pretty darn good. Now the last setting I'll mention is 4K. Always film in 4K. It looks fantastic. YouTube supports it. The only time I would say don't film in 4K is when your hard drive is really small and you just can't hold that many videos that are 4K because they're bigger. But here's the real advantage to using Final Cut Camera on your phone. It plays well with Final Cut Pro on the iPad, not the Mac, the iPad. And so when you film with Final Cut Camera, all of your videos are stored inside Final Cut Camera app. They don't go to your Photos app. So if you're like, Tech Dad, I can't find the videos, they're actually in the Final Cut Camera app. This is good because you don't want your Photos app being all cluttered up with a bunch of YouTube stuff. Keep it inside this app. And then what's cool is you can use a button to wirelessly transfer all of your videos over to your iPad and to Final Cut Pro. So the two apps were designed to talk to each other, and it's beautiful and seamless. You don't need hard drives. You don't need to AirDrop. It will just beam it right over to Final Cut Pro on your iPad. You're going to love that. That is a big time saver, and it's a money saver because you don't need to buy hard drives. Now, there's an even better setup that you can use with Final Cut Camera and Final Cut Pro on iPad, and I want to talk about that now. All right, so let's talk about Final Cut Pro on the iPad and how you start editing. Well, to back up a step, you can actually start filming from Final Cut Pro, and this is what I do all the time. So this is what makes Final Cut Pro for iPad a really good one-person studio. So there is an option called Live Multicam, and so you can set up iPhones and iPads as cameras, and you can connect with them through Live Multicam, and this is great for setting up your shot. And so you can select Live Multicam and then select the devices that you want to connect, such as my iPhone 17 Pro Max. Then you can see the camera, so you can make sure that your shot is set up when you're actually sitting there in the shot. It's really awesome. So filming is great with multicam because I can see the shot. There's a little record button on the iPad screen. I can just click that, start recording, and then stop it whenever I want as well. When I'm all done collecting footage, I just hit done, and all my clips will automatically jump into Final Cut Pro, and I can start editing. All right, so that's my setup. That's how I've been doing this for over a year, and it's working pretty darn well. I think the Apple apps are really great. If you're going to film on an iPhone, actually use the Apple apps that are provided, and you'll have some really good videos. Let me know if you want to know more about this topic. I'm happy to answer questions from comments below, or if I need to make a more in-depth video on how to edit with Final Cut Pro for iPad, I'm happy to look into that as well. That's all I got for you. If this helped you out, please like and subscribe, leave comments with questions, and I'll see you next time.